First, you lose your sky bison. Then, you lose yourself. Not with screams, but with silence. Aang doesn't fall apart. He disappears in plain sight. The Serpent's Pass is the episode where hope flatlines. And the question it leaves us with is brutal. What survives when feeling too much could destroy you? Aang starts this journey hollowed out. He smiles, he strategizes, he keeps moving. But everything about him is tighter now, sharper. Turns out, confronting your feelings is harder than dodging fireballs, as if he's decided that emotions are liabilities. And in a way, he has. I was so angry about losing Appa that I couldn't control myself, he tells Katara. I hated feeling like that. So he chooses something colder, something safer. He abandons hope, because nothing says enlightened monk like emotionally shutting down and pretending it's strategy. You've probably done it too. Close the door on hope because it hurt too much. Because when you've lost something precious, hope feels like a tease, a cruel echo of what might never return. Better to go numb, you think. Better to be efficient, clear-eyed, unbreakable. But here's the hidden message of this episode. Numbing yourself isn't strength. It's pause. It's survival mode. And eventually, it catches up with you. As Aang leads refugees along the perilous pass, he speaks like a monk, but walks like a soldier. Hope is just a distraction, he says. And on the surface, that feels wise, monastic, stoic. But beneath it, there's something bleeding. Because the truth is, he hasn't moved on from Appa. He's just buried the grief under focus. And sooner or later, grief always finds a way through. There's a quiet genius to this episode. It gives us action. A literal sea serpent, fireballs, collapsing rocks. But the real danger isn't the creature in the water. It's the silence inside Aang. The way he bows instead of hugging Katara. The way he won't let himself feel, even when someone offers love. This is the lesson of the Serpent's Pass. When you try to avoid the pain of loss, you end up avoiding joy too. Because emotions don't work like switches. You can't turn off sorrow without dimming the light of connection. Aang doesn't just lose hope. He loses his ability to be comforted. His refusal to grieve isolates him, even from the people who love him most. And yet, the episode doesn't shame him for this. It understands. This is what trauma does. It tempts us into control, into withdrawal, into logic over feeling. We become the pass, narrow, brittle, surrounded by waves. But this story isn't just about Aang. Around him, everyone is quietly walking their own edge. Sokka, overprotective and tight-lipped, is still haunted by the girl he couldn't save at the North Pole. He flinches at the idea of loss. He micromanages Suki's safety like it's the only way to keep death from sneaking in again. If micromanaging someone's bedtime counts as flirting, Sokka's got romance covered. And when he finally breaks down and admits the truth, I couldn't protect someone, you realize just how many people in this world are walking with ghosts. Suki, strong and kind and patient, mirrors another truth. That care isn't always about protection. Sometimes it's about presence. She doesn't need saving, but she understands why Sokka needs to try. And when he finally lets himself love her, truly, he does it not because the fear is gone, but because he accepts it. Toph, meanwhile, has her own moment of quiet vulnerability. She can hold up mountains. But when she falls into the water, unable to swim, she screams for help. And even in the moment she's saved, she flinches from being seen. She laughs it off, kisses the wrong person. Apparently, earthbending a mountain is easier than accepting a compliment, but it's real. That moment when the strongest person admits they're not invincible. When someone always grounded is forced to surrender. And that's the deeper truth this episode holds. Every character is confronting their edge, not just physically, but emotionally. Every one of them is learning that control is an illusion, and vulnerability is a risk worth taking. Maybe that's why this episode hits differently as an adult. Because we know what it's like to keep going while something inside us stays paused. To carry on with the plan, hit the deadline, smile for the photo, while our inner world waits for permission to speak. This isn't just an animated metaphor, it's a mirror. One that asks, what part of you have you left behind in order to survive? And what would it mean to go back for it? Not with shame, but with softness. So pause, just for a moment, not to fix anything, not to rush to hope, but to ask yourself gently, where have I gone silent? Is there a feeling you've shut the door on because it asked too much of you? A version of yourself you've abandoned to feel safe? Let this episode be a small reminder. Your softness isn't the enemy. Your grief isn't too loud. And you're allowed to feel without apologizing. Maybe strength isn't moving on fast. Maybe it's just not turning away. Let's go back to Aang, because for all the stillness he wears like armor, there is one thing that cracks through: the birth of a child. That's the twist, the pivot, the poetic turn. The Serpent's Pass is named for danger, but it becomes a womb. Because in the Avatar universe, giant sea monsters are just the opening act for emotional revelations. A corridor of pain that leads to life. And when Aang enters the tent and sees that new baby, when he sees a future where love still creates, something breaks open in him. He cries. Not because the pain is gone, but because he remembers that love is worth the pain. And exactly that is the hidden moral under all the battles and monsters and bending. Hope isn't about believing everything will be okay. Hope is about choosing to care anyway. It's knowing you might hurt again, and loving anyway, fighting anyway, trusting anyway. That's what Aang reclaims. He doesn't disappear this time. He stays, even in the softness, even in the sorrow. Not a naive belief in perfect endings, but the courage to stay soft, to stay human. As he prepares to leave, Aang finally admits the truth. I thought I was trying to be strong, but really, I was just running away from my feelings. And that's the moment many of us need. The realization that shutting down isn't resilience, it's delay. That peace isn't found in numbness, but in presence, in honesty, in letting yourself feel again. And Katara? She doesn't push. She just holds him. That's all any of us really need, isn't it? Someone who doesn't ask us to be okay, just to be real. So why does this episode matter? Because we live in a world that tells us to stay strong, when what we really need is to stay connected, to ourselves, to each other. We're told to bury pain, to keep moving, to not dwell. But grief isn't a detour, it's the path. And the Serpent's Pass reminds us that walking it fully is what brings us home to ourselves. The episode ends with a kiss, a birth, a tear, and a vow. I promise, I'll find Appa as fast as I can. Aang isn't fixed. He hasn't won, but he's soft again. And that's everything. The Serpent's Pass is not a battle. It's a rite of passage. A crossing through grief, fear, and the temptation to close off. It shows us that bravery isn't about fearlessness. It's about walking forward with your heart still open, because all of us, at some point, try to shut down what hurts. We try to be strong by pretending not to feel. But real strength, it's in allowing your heart to break and still loving anyway, still hoping anyway. This episode speaks to anyone who's ever numbed out to survive, anyone who's ever pushed away hope because it hurt too much to keep it alive. It teaches us that peace is not found in pretending we're okay. It's found in admitting that we're not and letting people in anyway, because life will break your heart. But that's not the end of the story. The end is the part where you choose to feel again. You don't need to be okay to keep going. You just need to stay real, stay soft, stay human. Hope isn't about knowing it'll work out. Hope is saying, even if it doesn't, I'll still care. I'll still try. I'll still love. That's what makes Aang the Avatar. Not his bending, not his strength, but his willingness to feel, to cry, to hope again. And maybe that's what will save us all. Have you ever gone silent? Not because you were fine, but because feeling it all felt too dangerous? What helped you come back? If this episode stirred something in you, give it a like. It helps more thoughtful fans find their way here. And if you want more moments like this, hit subscribe.